Hi, you've reached the voicemail of Hannah Brett with Connect Call. Just leave a message and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks.
1 for more options.
Hi, Hannah. I'm sorry to, well, I'll be really quick, but basically I got your name and number from my therapist. I was talking with her, well, I've been working with her for a bit, and, she had recommended something about going maybe not to a 30-day treatment, but something a little shorter. It's just a lot's going on at home. I just find myself just bumping into my boyfriend in that relationship and getting so irritated with my mom recently. And I have no patience of work, and I don't know exactly what I need, but I definitely need some sort of time out. If you can get back to me, that would be great. Appreciate you and thank you.
Hi, this is Hannah Brett with Connect Call. I'm trying out new taglines. I think I'm sticking with, I haven't even said my tagline yet. Let me say it. Hold on. Take 2. Hi, this is Hannah with Connect Call, where I often say I don't have a clinical background, but I do have a PhD for picking up the phone for families in crisis. It's cheesy, but I feel like it makes sense, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Right? Because I remember where that came from, by the way, before I introduce our wonderful guest, was I had a story coach once who told me, because I had imposter syndrome, and I was like, I'm not an expert. And she's like, you are an expert for picking up that phone. And I was like, you're right. And I've done it for a long time. So
That's right.
I just wanted everyone to welcome our guests today. We have Amelia Baldwin and Lizzy McGlothlin. Lizzy is the executive director of Onsite with programs in Nashville and California, so Tennessee and California. And Amelia Baldwin is the executive director of Milestones, which is the trauma-specific treatment right on Onsite's campus. The reason why I wanted both of you here so much, and why I myself am so passionate about the work you guys do, is not just from professionally referring to you over the years, but I've done some of my own personal work there, and it's a game changer. It really, really is a game changer. It was a game changer when I was stuck, and it was a game changer after my mom died. And so I wanted to bring you guys here because from the voicemail, what we gathered was we had a caller where this young woman just couldn't put her finger on it. But I think she was going to therapy locally, but she just kept running into relationships at home, at work. She wasn't getting a lot of sleep. And I think she knew that she needed more help, but she didn't know what more help would look like. So in that situation, immediately I'd be like, is this someone for an intensive? And we're going to talk about what an intensive is. Or is this somebody who would be a better fit for Milestones 30-day or more residential treatment? So I would send over to your admissions office. So I guess my first question is, well, first, let's tell the viewers out there, what is intensive therapy? What is an intensive workshop? What is that exactly? Go for it, Lizzy.
So an intensive at Onsite is a 3 to 5 day process. So you come to our campus, it's retreat style. You stay with us, we house you, we feed you, we kind of eliminate all of the distractions of the outside world so you can focus on what you need to do. And we can do that in a number of ways. You can do that individually, one-on-one with a therapist. You can do that in a coupleship, so with your partner. You can do that in a family, or we have groups. And we are probably best known for our groups and group intensives, which is the 5-day process. I personally love groups. And so anytime anybody's willing to step into that process, I think, and I'm excited to get into this caller and what she's seeing, because I think if she's appropriate, the group process would be ideal, because being able to translate what she's bumping into in her relationships in a group format, she's going to be able to really see it and get outside of it and get a different perspective. So we can talk about that later, but that's kind of what the overview of the intensives are for Onsite.
And I'd like to just say also, I have done group. I did the Living Centered program with you guys years ago, and exactly what you're saying is so true. But then after my mom died, after a year, not knowing how to handle my grief, I needed to be alone, and I needed to be with that therapist, and I needed to find a way to talk to my mom and deal with my grief. And it was amazing what was done in 2.5, 3 days. I couldn't believe it, actually. Some people say it, if you're in therapy, it's kind of hitting a fast forward for some of the work, or at least really pulling off the Band-Aid and really getting to the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
when would somebody, so if somebody was calling and they were calling maybe to look at the intensive or Milestones, when would somebody be a good candidate for Milestones, which is your trauma specific treatment?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Amelia?
Yeah, thanks. It
Hi.
honestly depends on where they are and how their struggles are showing up. Are they in a
Right,
place where doing day-to-day life just seems too much? They may
right,
be in a place where the acuity of in this situation that we're listening to, the relationships are literally blowing up, and it's like they cannot get a handle on any one relationship or any one part of their lives. It just feels like this
right,
house of cards has fallen apart. And so
right,
somebody who has that level of just dysfunction, and when they're when their nervous system is such that they really can't function on a day-to-day basis, or they are and it's taken everything they've got, and at the end of the day they can do nothing else because they've just been surviving, that's a good
yeah,
time to look at a longer timeout, a
right,
longer more contained, more comprehensive program. And I don't mean
right.
more as in it's better. I just mean their nervous system needs a safe place that can hold them.
More of
And
a
as
clinical hug
that's right. That's right.
for a
And
longer
so
period of time.
they're able to go deeper. And also they may need help with their medications. So because we have a medical staff that can help evaluate those needs or manage some of their medications, and honestly, sometimes the medication is the problem. And so it's
Right,
either the wrong medication or too much. And having an
totally.
opportunity to adjust that in a 30-day plus program, you can make adjustments quicker than you could in an outpatient
Right.
basis.
And I and will say from my own personal experience and also referring people, your admissions process is so thorough. Like prior to going
Very.
in, you
Hmm.
would think you were literally you just got a position in the White House, which is great, but you
Well,
guys want to know everything, which is very important
it
because
is
it really
important.
I have to tell you, in the treatment that I've worked for, or just in general, when you think about people committing to 30 or 90 or 6 months or whatever, we're not doing a thorough as not like we do a psych social, but you guys really ask the questions and they're
But do you
great.
know
It's
why
so
we do that,
thorough.
Hannah? It's because we wanna know, number 1, are we the right
Yeah.
fit for you? Because we care so
Yes.
deeply about their healing that if we're not the right place, we're gonna be real honest and help you find the right place. The
Totally.
other reason I think maybe that's not the same as what you've been experiencing is because we are not a substance abuse program, we have
Mm,
to ensure there's a level of safety for the work we do because we aren't
right.
set up to treat primary substance use disorder.
Right.
And I think there are times in which people want a shortcut 3 to 5 day shortcut in
I
that
did.
area, right? Right? And so we just have to ensure that we're the right fit.
Well, and quite frankly, like we don't want to waste people's time and resources.
Mm-mm.
And I
No.
think there's a lot of times like, we'll take them. And it's like, well, what is it really going to benefit their process?
Right.
And so we do a really thorough screening on both sides. Yes, it feels a lot at times because our clinical team is really keen on making sure the client can maximize their time and their experience with us. And if we have any concerns of like this particular issue that just happened is going to absorb their entire time and we
Right.
don't want they're here to work on X and their
Right.
That's
Y
right.
just happened, we need more runway so we can get back to X. It's I actually appreciate it. And to the outside person, yeah, it can be a little tedious at times, but
No, and also I think, and we'll get into more about the programs that you guys have, but 9 years ago when I did the living centered program, I always described it to
I
people. It
like
was
your plug.
amazing. It was a little plug, but it was
I
the
see
best
you.
because I said it was like MTV The Real World. 7 strangers move into a house because you literally
That's
it's
right.
the most beautiful experience of group therapy. You walk into a group where you only know each other as your first names,
Mm.
and you become this like family by the end of the week. You're not allowed to know what anybody does for a living, and we can't reveal it until we're leaving because there's so much clicking and judgment based on when you meet people. It was fascinating, and it was also awesome. I think a lot of the application process for that you guys got was also making sure I was going to be in the right group, and with
Hmm.
the right
Oh,
people,
that's right. Yeah.
and I will say I had a situation recently where a young woman who had survived one of these hellacious shootings, needed some more help. And she's been to treatment and she's tried clinical trials. I mean, this kid's tried everything. And I called you guys because you have this amazing program the foundation also sponsors called From Tragedy to Triumph, where it's 1 week a year for
Triumph over tragedy.
That's what I meant. That's what
You
I
were
meant.
so close. I just
Triumph over tragedy, which
so
is this
close.
beautiful week, 1 week, I think, or twice a month, twice a year, or once a week, once
Twice a year.
twice a year, where
Twice a year.
you host any sort of survivors and victims and people that have survived
That's
this type
shooting.
of trauma. And so I had this young woman who couldn't make it to that week, but what we were able to do was you were able to build like a really beautiful program for her based on her need. And at the time, which, and like others, group therapy's scary, or, she needed more individual, but you were able to put together a treatment plan.
Yeah.
Which I love that, because I don't like having a cookie cutter model for any program, because everybody is
Right.
so different for their needs. And so what I've always loved about working with you guys is you will always just really look at who that person is and what they need.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and I love Lizzie's team can get so creative, just like what you're talking about with this young
So
lady.
creative.
And then even if it's not a specific program like that, the idea of, to your point, putting together groups and trying to find similar experiences. Sometimes just having a similar experience with someone else in the group immediately helps us feel safe enough to drop into the work. And so that is another reason why the assessment process is so thorough, so that we can attempt to join people who have similar experiences.
And meet people where they are,
Mhm.
I think even those who've done therapy, I know I have a few people in my life right now where at least every 4 months I'm circling back going, have you called Lizzie yet? Have you even tried to do the application on Onsite? I've referred a lot of people because I really believe it was one of those experiences, and I don't even mean to be plugging Onsite like this, but I'm going to plug it because I went through it in the best way, is I walked away from that experience saying to myself, if I could gift all my friends this, I would give them this, because you don't have to be struggling with a mental health diagnosis. You don't have to be addicted to stuff. You don't actually have to be in this really, really, really horrible crisis. I mean, typically people are in crisis, they call for help, but every person benefits from doing, I would think, one of the intensives with you guys. So I intentionally brought Lizzy McGlothlin and Amelia Baldwin on to just have two of my favorite humans on the podcast, also women and people I would call in a situation where I would get a caller like that, where she's just bumping up against all these symptoms to do with trauma. What I wanted to do now with that is really just focus one thing at a time. And I think for this episode, I really, really want to focus on what an intensive is, which you described before. My question also is, do you need to have therapy before you come and do one of the workshops?
Not necessarily. Again, it's such a nuanced thing. I hate to say yes or no. I would say depending on what you're showing up with, if there's a lot of significant trauma going on, yes, we want you to have an established therapist, because we need to know that you have somebody to go back to continue the work. If you are coming for like a living centered program and it's more you're feeling stuck, I think you and I talked about this. It's more about you're just feeling stuck, or you're not sure if you have this
Burnout.
career goal, or you're burnt out, that we can get away with not necessarily having any therapy, but we will obviously support you in getting a therapist post so you can continue your
your discharge. I remember when I did the living center program, the discharge plan was amazing, because like at the time I think I needed to switch up what my focus was going to be with therapy. So it was finding a new therapist, and also just ideas of other skills or groups or activities I could be doing back at home, which would help me. Because I think what also people need to understand about intensives, it's beautiful work. It's amazing, but it's not like in 3 days, like
you're healed.
You're in a box with a bow and it looks beautiful. What I try to tell people, like when I did the grief work about my mother, it was a lot of work that I've never even done before, like parts work and other things, but really learning how to start to embrace the grief differently. And with that, it just gave me a real like blueprint of what I needed to work on when I came home, which
Mm-hmm.
was so amazing. Because I think people are like, well, what can really get done in 5 days? What can really get done in 3 days? You'll be surprised.
You would be surprised. A
You would be
lot.
surprised. Yeah.
It is the tip of, it's scratching the
It's the
surface.
tip of the
There was
iceberg. Yeah.
It's the tip of the iceberg. There's a therapist who used to come to Onsite, Linda O, and she would always say, I'm going to keep turning over stones and then till there's not any more to turn. Because the reality is, if we're human having a human experience, there's always going to be stones to turn over. And so
Always.
Onsite just wants to be a part of the journey. We are not
Right.
the journey. And we can be in the middle, beginning, however, but we are not the journey.
But I think it's such a beautiful thing that people don't know about. I think that's why I talk about you guys so much, is because I think in the world I work in, it's like you're in therapy or you're in residential treatment. You know what I mean? And people are like, doesn't really know what these workshops can be and how. And for some people, and I saw it with my own group, there's people that, are not as well versed in doing therapy with themselves. And afterwards, like, they're like, oh, this feels good. I want to do more of this. You know what I mean? It's still astonishing to me in the world that we live in. And I think this is where I'm most grateful that I got sober, is it forced me to have to look at myself and do work on myself. And so many people we come into contact with have never been to a therapist, have never really realized that how they were molded as children is who they are today. You know what I mean? And how much it just doesn't go away, or you know what I mean? And so I think, again, that's why I feel like what you guys offer is good for everybody.
Can you imagine the world if everybody got to go through and have these
Can you
insights?
imagine?
I mean, that
Like,
is our mission, is like humanity reconnected. Can you imagine if a politician was like, wow, my mother did that, and now I'm
not going to start a war with Iran. No, I'm kidding. But I'm just saying,
Don't
like,
keep
if
that
more
up.
people, I'm not trying to get political, but
Yeah.
it's true.
Well,
Like,
'cause
go on.
the whole hub of what we do is bringing people from all walks of life, all faiths, all political views,
Yes.
all cultural backgrounds, all
Yes.
ages, all genders, to a group. You don't know the behind the scenes. You don't know what they're coming in with. All you know is who they are and their humanity. And it is hard to not connect and love. So if we had the world, again, this is just like, it would
No,
totally make a
listen,
difference, if we could
I
see each
always
other's human.
said that Heather Hayes, who's going to be on, I think, in an episode, we talked, she does a lot like Nikki Soto with ethics and wanting different licensing for our treatment industry. And the first thing I said is, I remember I go, if I had a licensure board, I would mandate every like executive leader has to go to an intensive a year, probably at Onsite. I'd like to see that happen. You know what I mean? Or just, anybody who is leading people, please go to an intensive, but we would be in a better place, I think, if more people, and I think what you just touched on was such a powerful piece where I can't describe it, but when you walk into a room like I did of 7 people, from all over the country, and you couldn't,
Outside of the country.
you didn't know what their demographic was. You didn't know what they prayed about or didn't pray about. You didn't know anything. You just knew who they were and how they were showing up and what they needed to work on. And it was funny, by the end of the week, 2 people that you would never put in a room with me, we were like best of friends, because what we had for each other was human connection. There was nothing else blurring that. You know what I mean? And I think, I experienced that when I was in COVID in the UK. I feel like everybody, we had to all permanently wear masks. So you were forced, all you had were people's own eyes, and you would tell stories and just really connect. And I just feel like that's a dream. One day, everybody will go to an intensive at Onsite.
Maybe one day.
One day. Also, I wanted to ask, when people come to do an intensive, because I've had 2 experiences. One, I had an experience where I spent, which is a beautiful, beautiful grounds in is it Nanelli, Tennessee? There's something
Cumberland
magic
Furnace.
in Cumberland Furnace, where you wake up with the horses, and it's just this magical place, and you sleep in these cabins. I hate not knowing what the unknowing looks like. Is there a way on the website or anything where people can access kind of like a video of what the property looks like or properties, all that?
Yeah, we have 2 properties. We have the Tennessee and the California location. Tennessee is just outside of Nashville. California is outside of San Diego. And we have photos and videos on our website. But if anybody ever wants to request for more information, there's a link for that, and we can get more footage. And
Right.
then we can just walk them through it. Anybody local can come tour at any time. But yeah, there's definitely resources on the website.
And can you also explain, because I think I explained this wrong, the staff you have, the therapists you have are from all over the country and that
Yes.
you've trained um, to do these intensives. So they fly in for these, correct?
Correct. So we do staff a lot of we call them guides, to come lead our groups and intensives from all over. And the reason we do that is because we can get the best of the best. We really feel like we get the
You
cream of the
really
crop that
can.
way. We're
Yeah.
not stuck with our local pool. And so in bringing them in, we do have some minimum requirements that they have to meet. And then we have the on-site kind of focused method. And then to top it off, they have their own expertise. They have their own special sauce that they kind of add to the mix. So we've got our standardization somewhat, our own minimum requirements of training, psychodrama, license, all that stuff. And then they have their own expertise that we then can use when clients are calling in to custom match. So I think this really creates a custom, beautiful experience for clients when they're calling and saying, okay, but I really want to work on this and I need to focus here. And it's like, okay, great. Do. We've got this
Right.
guide who has these, this. Let's match him
Right.
and move. Um,
Again, yeah. And not to, divulge into everyone's work, but I could just tell just with some cases in the past where the trauma was so extreme or the like a shooting was and the issue I was hearing from people going into treatment is their story was just so overwhelming that people couldn't receive it or help them. And so I just know I've sent you guys some extreme cases where not extreme, but just again thinking outside the box and also having that trained therapist who you could cater to, and it's always been such a positive experience. I've never had somebody leave that property and go, I want my money back, or that wasn't it was okay. I mean, I'm not just saying it, I'm just not saying it, you guys. Everybody that I have referred there has thanked me afterwards, so you have to check out Onsite. But also, what are some misunderstandings about, like, what are some things that people think intensives are that they're not?
yeah.
Take a moment.
Take a moment.
I'll
No, just
go
sit.
first.
Take 4 deep.
Insurances does not cover this, correct?
No
Right.
insurance.
But it's not as cost prohibiting, or it's not like treatment where it's you guys are very, very competitive and really work with the client on that
Yeah, I mean,
piece.
if you look at a long-term treatment and our daily rate, it's very competitive. If anything, you're getting a pretty good deal with us.
No, you are.
Because when you go to treatment, rightfully so, you've got a longer runway. You got to kind of slow the pace down a little bit. So you're doing a 3-hour group, and then you're having, an afternoon for this, and then you're doing this,
Right.
and it's like we are. I wanted to say balls to the wall, but I don't know if that's
No,
appropriate.
you're like the meat and potatoes.
Yeah, like you are running from morning to day. So you are
Yes, you are.
getting a lot of value out of your time. And that's what we hope. And again, to circle back to the original prompt before this segue episode was like, that is the screening, because again, we're going to go hard. We want to make sure you're ready for that. And some people aren't ready. Some people have a
Right.
few steps ahead before they get to us, and that's where you ask, are they milestones appropriate or are they workshop appropriate?
Right.
It's like you've got to be at a level of readiness to really be able to maximize that time.
But with that being said, I will say, like, I can see how, like, for some people, this experience, you might get more out of it therapeutically than even going to like a 30, 60-day program because of how you're really just getting into what we're doing, like the work.
Yeah.
But I will say, as people who might be freaked out about it or like, am I in therapy for 8 hours a day? Like typically you are, but you're like with a group or another person. And so it's not just you with a magnifying glass all day. You're also processing for other people and helping them. And by doing that work, you're actually learning a lot about yourself as well, you know?
Yeah. So the caller who called and was like, I'm irritated with my kids. I'm
Right.
bumping into relationships or whatever. It's like you are with 6, 7 other strangers as you so
Mm.
beautifully put. We're in the real world now, but not really the world.
But that's if
And
they go to the living centered program.
yeah, if they go to living centered, and now it's like, okay, this person over here in my group is irritating me and is
Right.
triggering or bringing up all the feelings I feel at home. Well, guess what? Not about that person. So, what a
Right.
beautiful space and opportunity to be like, okay, so what is that? What is happening? Oh, it's because of this message from my childhood or this
Right.
incident. I created this idea that, you know, whatever. I'm not doing a great example, but that
No,
is
you
just the microcosm of this group where you're all not only connecting for yourself, but then you're watching other people and like, oh, I can relate to that, or oh, that was me, or that used to be me, or whatever.
right. And what I've also loved, and again, people can see on your website, it's just living centered. I mean, the best way I can for someone like me was like I just felt stuck in life and I just needed to be recharged and unstuck and figure out, like, at the time my career was my identity and I had nothing else, and not nothing else, but that's what defined me, and it burned me out. So, but what I will say, what I love is all the different other programs you have. Like, you do have one for money, you have one for grief, you have for the couples work. You would collab beautifully with any treatment center where, especially if it's parents with a young adult or adolescent. As I always tell people, the biggest misconception of putting your child or loved one in treatment is it's them that you're fixing, and it's not a family thing. Just like when you do an intervention, and we're going to talk more about that with Heather Hayes, how it's a family intervention. It's not just the client intervention, because unless everybody learns to change, you know what I mean? Because that person is going to change. And so I think where you guys also really complement the family work is if you do have a loved one in treatment and the treatment centers asked you to, do a little bit more work on yourself, really focus on your work, find a therapist, or maybe, you've got a kid, with all due respect, who's maybe been through 7 to 10 treatment centers, and it's time the parents really have to look at themselves, as being part of this. And so those are the type of parents I'd be like, maybe go do a few days at Onsite. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Do you
Well, and
get
I
a
want
lot
to
of
camp.
that?
Oh, yes. I want to camp there for a second because if you think about when Onsite started in
I love you. I
1978,
want to camp there. I love that. Go on.
I mean, we don't have a lot of time, but yes,
No, we can
yes.
edit. Go.
This is a beautiful segue into a really amazing client that we can work with. So we were founded in 1978 by Sharon, Sharon Weichschutter Cruz, whose dad and went to treatment. And Sharon was like, hold on, hold on. So he gets to go get help, but I don't. Like, what am I supposed to do? I've been impacted. And so she went to treatment herself, which is kind of
Mm,
fun to get her own. And that's where she was like, everybody needs this. Anybody,
mm,
loved ones impacted by substance abuse. So it's kind of at the core of who we are. And what I
mm,
love about parents to coming to do their own work alongside their kids is they're modeling for their kids. Yeah, I'm
definitely.
in this with you. They're getting their own language that will match their children. So they're
Yes.
understanding addiction, trauma, codependency, inner child work, all of that. And so there's like this connection out when they come together. It's like we now can meet and the kid feels, I think, more seen. Like, oh, mom
Right.
was willing to go do this or dad or whatever. And then there's, if they both done their work, then they could come together at a later date and do a family intensive. And so it's like
Right.
the kid did this, mom did this. Now, how do we match this and continue our relationship? So that's like ideal scenario.
No, and it's so true what you say, and I talk about it on other episodes. Like, if my mom, I always said, as soon as my mom got hijacked, basically in my eyes, by the clinical team and started listening to them, and her messaging started to change, where she was saying,
Mm-hmm.
"Hey, Hannah, I'm sorry you're really struggling in treatment today. You really need to talk to your counselor or somebody from one of the meetings. I myself am taking myself to a meeting tonight and asking for a number, or I myself." And when I saw my mom basically say, "Well, if you're going to do it, I'm going to do it," you know, it did change for me. Like, it's like, okay, well, if she's going to, because as someone in treatment, you can be like, so much easier said than done. I'm the one in treatment. You guys are all gallivanting. But I'm telling you, the most loving thing you can do for yourself and the child or loved one that's in treatment, also to make the most kind of, not bang for your buck, but best on your investment, is everyone just take that time and do some work, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and if there's a couples that's like, again, the kid is in treatment and the couple wants it, we can do that too. We can spend time in the 3 days making sure they're aligned on their boundaries and what they need to do, psychoeducation.
Right.
So when the kid or the loved one comes out, everybody's in a really aligned, grounded space, and that's just going to support the child.
Awesome. Real quick, who is not a good candidate for Onsite?
I would say someone active in addiction.
Mm,
We don't, and that's across the board. We don't want to spend time trying to convince them they're an addict or trying to convince them this part of them. We want to
right.
get right to the work, to the trauma work. So that's
Totally.
milestones on site everywhere. Anybody that's actively like have recent suicide attempt is not going to be, if this is an historical or like current cutting,
Right.
depending on the medication, that's anyways, that's a whole other thing. Medications are considered where it's not a no, but it's just something we kind of
Right.
look at because again, we don't want to waste anybody's time. If someone's so medicated, they can't
Right.
even access their feelings, we don't want to take their money.
And you guys are different. I will stress this. Like typically in treatment, I don't know of many, maybe like 2% of people who are walking through those doors wanting to be there, right? And buying in from the jump. That's separate. For the intensives, you need to be self-motivated. Although
Yes.
I did have a guy in my group who I loved who is like, I'm only here so my wife won't leave me. But by the end of the week, he's like, I'm so grateful she did this because I wouldn't have never, you know what I mean? But typically everyone going is they're self-motivated to be there and to ready to
Yeah,
do
I
the
would
work.
say 90%. Yeah, you're gonna have the cases where, well, my so and
Mhm.
so really convinced me I should do this. I'm on the fence, and by the end, they're like, shit, I should do this. So yeah,
Really? And you
yeah.
guys make it, I will say, real cozy. Like the property's amazing, the cabins, the beds are some of the best. The best night's sleeps have been at on-site,
Our
and the
sheets, people love the sheets.
sheets,
I have
and
the
don't even
sheets in
get me
my
started
own
on the food, the cuisine. Everything is so healthy and
theme.
good. And I just can't say enough great things about you guys. I'm going to have another episode with Amelia coming back on to discuss Milestones, which is your trauma specific treatment. I
Mhm,
think that's another topic. A lot of people, a lot of treatment centers, everyone says they can do trauma, right? Because trauma is
mhm.
like maybe the underbelly of why someone is using. But I think there's such a place for trauma specific treatment. I also like, in part of the work I'm doing with this podcast is really showing off not only the good providers and ethical providers, but also like we talk about it, Nikki talked it, like you don't want to go to the facility that says they can do everything, you know? Um, you really want to go somewhere where, anyway, I just can't say enough good things about you guys and about Milestones. I'll be excited to have that episode. Lizzie, we always want to have you back on. Is there anything we should know that is new about
I don't think
Onsite?
it's new, but I do think it's a cornerstone of who we are
Mm,
that I was hoping you would ask this question because I like to say it. I think at the base of what we do is healing hospitality. And so what that means
ooh,
is not only are we clinically savvy and at the top of our game there, we have an amazing clinical team, all of that, but the service throughout your time here is equally as important to us because we think that also impacts you being able to show up and process through what you need to do. So again,
totally.
the hospitality, let us take care of you. Let's remove obstacles. Let's get you what you need. Let's make sure you're comfortable and have everything so you can just be here. I think that's part that maybe people do know or don't know, but the
You take
wraparound
away your
piece.
phones, y'all, but it's the best thing ever.
It
Like,
is, and we have, like, the
my
culinary
God.
gives a shit, the hospitality gives a shit. Everybody is invested in your healing while you're
Yes.
here.
Yes.
100%. Maintenance. I had to call a maintenance the other day. I'm like, "Hey, one of the beds is a little wonky." I literally within an hour, we had a new bed to that
It's
client.
amazing. And that's
So
also a
that is
point
like yeah.
that I really stress to people who are looking at treatment. It's not about the program, it's about the people. And some of the best facilities I refer to or programs, it's because anybody from the chef to the landscaper to the van driver is invested in that client,
Mhm.
because that's where the work is. It's
Yep.
24/7 on campus.
Yep.
So, in the show notes, we're going to have website and everything. And
Okay.
again, I can't thank you guys enough. The work you're doing is not only saving lives, but helping with sanity across the board in the world.
We're gonna change
Um,
the world.
telling you, if everybody went to Onsite and also did a DBT skills group, we would be living in a better, better world.
I think
It's a,
that balanced approach for
it's
sure.
perfect. I love you dearly, and you're one of my
I
favorite
love you.
humans.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Connect Call. As we conclude, remember that insights shared are intended for informational and educational purposes only and should not substitute professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. We strongly recommend consulting a qualified medical health professional or healthcare provider for personalized advice tailored to your unique needs. Your mental health journey is important, and having the right support is essential. If you're experiencing a mental health crisis or require immediate assistance, please reach out to a mental health provider or emergency services in your area. We're grateful to have you as part of our community, and your well-being remains our priority. So follow us on social media to stay connected, and be sure to catch one of our episodes on our YouTube channel. We're here to support you every step of the way.